releasing old beliefs. I'd like to start with the scripture. This is from the Hebrew scriptures. It's from the Psalms of David. And I'd like to read for you from the 51st Psalm, one verse, verse 10. This is David speaking with God. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. He's asking God to help him to release his old beliefs. How do we get these old beliefs? When we're born, as children of God, we are pure reflections of the divine light. Think about a lantern, like this lantern here. Inside it, there's a candle, and radiating from it is light. If there was no lantern, you'd be seeing the pure light of the candle. But since there is a lantern, there's glass around it. That glass and that lantern itself you might think of as our bodies. In our heart is the pure light of spirit, the Christ light. It's completely untainted. And when we're first born, we are pure light, untainted. We're way up here. Immediately on birth, though, we get our bottoms spanked and we start to cry. What's happening now? We're beginning to know about the world. Our education has started. We're learning. We not know a word yet, but we know what it feels like to feel that little spank. Pretty soon we know what it feels like to be hungry, and we might cry again. And so you see, based on how long it takes for us to get this food, or how long it takes to get diaper changed, we might produce a belief inside of ourselves about an expectation around that. We believe right away that if I cry, I get the attention that I need. If I cry a certain way, then my caregiver knows that I need diaper or that I need fed. And what we've done, you see, is we begin to create a little bit of a film on the glass of our lantern. And the light doesn't shine exactly the same way through the glass. It's a little bit distorted. This is a perfect analogy for these beliefs that we take on as we grow. Perhaps we're a little bit older now, and someone says something to us that's hurtful. Maybe we were singing in the shower, and someone that we care about and respect says, "Well, I wish you wouldn't do that. You sound like a braying donkey." And then all of a sudden, we think we don't sound good. That free voice that's in us, that's part of who we are, gets closed off. And maybe you just weren't singing the right song. Maybe you were in the wrong key. That voice is still there. But we have shut it off from ourselves. More gunk has built up on the glass of the lantern. It's ours to notice as adults now. These beliefs no longer serve us. Maybe the one about singing, no. That's the point is from a more mature perspective, we can see that the things that we took on, owning perhaps that I don't deserve to be loved. I am not good. These are all false beliefs. Because every one of us is a child of God, beloved, good, right now, just the way we are. That light, that pure light is still at the center of us, and it never goes out. That's why we light the candle before the service starts. It's a symbol that that light is always burning. It's just ours to begin to clean. We get the Windex of our curiosity going. And we notice, hey, my body doesn't feel very comfortable right now. I feel a little afraid. I feel it in my stomach. Perhaps I'm in a tense state and I've clenched my fists, or I feel my forehead is just furrowed, my brow's furrowed. I feel that tension, and I notice then that I'm in the grip of an old belief, a false belief. And so I become curious. Perhaps, when did I first feel this feeling? At what early age can I remember this feeling? And I notice it, and I notice how my body begins to feel when that feeling comes on me. And with repetition of being curious, eventually that belief doesn't have the same effect on us. We can realize that we're going into that pattern of thought because of our body, because of the way it makes us feel in our body. And then we can do something like, that belief, that's not the truth of me. That's not who I am. I am good, and I deserve love, and I deserve all of the good that God has to provide me. And you see, we've started to clean this gunk off the glass now. Is it going to go away the first time that happens? No. We've been carrying it around too long. But what happens is, every time we remember the truth of who we are in that moment like this, it becomes easier to do it the next time. We begin to do it sooner. We may carry around an old belief for days at the very beginning, feeling despair, feeling fear, feeling angry. But the more we practice realizing the state of our body and the beliefs, the emotions that are associated with it, the easier it becomes to bring ourselves back to a center where we know the truth of who we are, where we can feel the presence of God, the silence. One of the things I like to do in my practice, because I work a stressful job, I think we all have stressful lives. I don't think you can be a human being and be without stress. It's just part of life. Because if we didn't have it, we'd make it for ourselves. One of those old beliefs would kick in and we'd be right there. So what I like to do is when I'm between tasks, or say I'm driving and I come to a stoplight, or I'm working on my computer and I click on something and the hourglass begins to spin, I could just start click, 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 and then make it take longer, or I could stop at that stoplight and say, I really need to be moving now, but that stoplight doesn't change because I get upset, does it? Or if I'm just moving from one task to another, I've just finished something, I'm about to start the next thing, I can take a deep breath, and release it. And in that moment, I can feel my body relax. I call it a spirit breath. And it can be so short that no one ever knows that I did it. And if I'm sitting at that street light, what am I going to do anyway? Take a deep breath. Appreciate the sunshine or the clouds, the radio, even if it's a commercial. In this moment, everything's okay. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And when the light turns green, I'll go. Or when that hourglass stops spinning, I'll click the next button. And from a more clear state of mind. You see, when we're down here in this blue part of these two triangles, we're forgetting the truth of who we are. That's where the tension begins. And when we're in that state, what we're doing by contracting those muscles, whether it's muscles here, our arms, our legs, our stomach, we're taking resources, blood, the nutrients that are in the blood, we're taking them away and we're sending them to those large muscle groups. It's called fight or flight mode. You might have heard of that. Stress causes it. And when we were cavemen, it was necessary because there might be a dinosaur out there. And we needed to run from it. And it was really important. If we didn't run right then, as soon as we knew the dinosaur was there, we might not be there the next moment. But now, we can get into that fight or flight mode over something that doesn't even have any meaning for us anymore because of an old belief that we're carrying around. What happens when we go in fight or flight mode? Those resources that go to our large muscle groups. Resources that we need for our thinking. Because our brain isn't necessary for us to run away from the dinosaur. But we need our brain to do the work that we're doing now. We also need our autoimmune system. Our autoimmune system is what takes care of our body for us without us even knowing about it. And it needs to be fed. And if we're in a stress mode, full of all of this tension, then we're taking away resources that might help us to heal from a cut on our finger. That might help us to make sure that the bacteria that we just breathed in from somebody over here in the other room who was coughing and it got to us is fought off. Our autoimmune system, you see, it takes care of us without us even knowing it. But by holding on to old beliefs that have us triggered into a state of fight or flight, where we feel separate from God, we've shut down our autoimmune system, our digestive system, where we get the nutrients that we need to live. If we don't digest our food properly, we may as well not have eaten it. So, spirit break is a wonderful way. Be aware of our bodies. Because sure enough, when we get at fight or flight, anytime we start being separate from the oneness that is all around us, we'll feel it in our body. And that, by our own awareness, repeated curiosity, we'll begin to associate that feeling in our body, and we'll know what's coming. We'll know what's coming before it gets there. So, I want to go to a letter that we think Paul wrote. He wrote it to the Romans. And I'm going to read another real short verse. This is in Romans chapter 12 and one verse, verse 2. Do not imitate the way of this world. Be detached. Fear. Guilt. But instead, he says, be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Take that spirit break. Try it out. Don't just say, oh yeah, okay, that works. Give it a try. And notice, next time you're at a stoplight, and I know we're all going to go to a stoplight sometime or another, just take a deep breath. Release it. And eventually it'll turn green and you can go on. And notice the way it changes your body. From the frustration of having to stop what you were doing and wait on a light to turn colors. You know, I was going to get breakfast this morning and nobody was on the road and the light turned red. There was nobody in sight. Spirit break. You know what? It turned green right after that. Don't be attached to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, of your consciousness, or at least those old demons.